Hello all, welcome to another endgame study of the Solving Harder Studies to Improve Chess Calculation series. This one was composed by Jindřich Fritz. He was born in Czechoslovakia. As always, I suggest you watch the guide if you haven't, so you are better prepared for the practice. If you are already aware, then you already know that a 10-minute countdown will start. In that period, try to solve this one, and then I catch you up for the beginning of the guided solution. And here we are, and the first good move is to go with a brilliant king d5 double exclamation mark. Okay, let's see this position because the analysis of this position is key to find candidate moves and to go on for a win with this. Because, of course, we immediately see, okay, we have the pair of bishops and 2 pawns, but on the other side also two light pieces and 3 pawns, and notice, of course, that our the black knight is at the moment controlled by our light square bishop. But even if we take this knight, which of course we are going to try to grab it, we still need to fight against the other bishop, so we need to keep at least one of our pawns, which is not looking very great because at the moment there is a very easy possibility for black to take at least one. So the fight is going on about trying to grab this knight and trying to keep at least one of our pawns. And of course, let's see other alternatives for besides the main line. Okay, let's go with the forced one because this one is the best to see what's going on the position. Well, we simply check the king, so attract it to the d6 square. Now we can, of course, fork it with a check, but the king moves close to our pawn. And of course, when we take the enemy knight, now it's black to play and of course can grab our last pawn. And of course from here we don't have enough material advantage to go for a win. If we exchange one of the bishops, of course, we will remain just with a solo one, which can't mate. So this is key. As soon as we identify that, okay, we need to keep a pawn, maybe keeping a pawn at the moment is more important than go after the knight, which is not going anywhere, at least for the moment, because our bishop is still controlling. So going with the king starts to be logical because we need to give protection to our more important pawn e4 because the other one, okay, it's not going to remain in the game for long, for sure. Of course the other option is, okay, but why not then, if we go with d5, why not go with d3? Well, over here the options are simple to see. It's of course black to play, so it can simply go with several moves, but I like this one. This is a bit aggressive. Go with f5, so inviting white to grab the pawn. Let's say we go with our pawn taking the other pawn. Now black starts to maneuver, takes 1 pawn, then the king goes to overprotect our f5 pawn, but of course the enemy king also does that. And even if we take the pawn, the c5 pawn now, notice that the king can go to g5, attacking our bishop. So here the bishop needs to go to d1, but of course, as soon as the bishop goes away, both things can happen. The knight can move away, and of course, the bishop can take the pawn with check. The king now moves, let's say, it grabs another pawn, and of course, over here, we haven't achieved nothing. So we can't go with the king protecting the pawn. Okay, nice idea, but we need to go to d5. Also, more centered and more active than on d3, for sure. So now it's black to play. Of course, black won't lose time and will grab one of our pawns. Now we need to check the king, so we need to go with the bishop taking on c5. This is very easy to see. But let's say, so this is the main continuation, but let's say we go with the king to e5. And so why is this a mistake? And this is the first moment for you. It's black to play and to draw from here. 1 minute, pause if you need more. and black needs to go and try to place more or less white in zugzag. So it's a forced line. We need to check the king, so the king now needs to retreat. Let's say we go to f4, and now because we as black, of course, want to draw, we need to keep control of this pawn, so we need to come with the king. And okay, how can white force it from here? Well, let's say we check the king, so the idea is to force the king to move back, but now we are not attacking as white the c5 pawn. Let's say now we want to grab the knight, so let's move the king to open ways for the dark square bishop, but of course here, well, white can go directly for the last remaining pawn. Let's go first, exchange light square bishops. The white bishop attacks the knight, but now we can force the exchange. And as soon as you can see, there are not enough material for white to win anymore. So the correct idea here is to go and then force white to maneuver. And as soon as we are able to exchange light squares bishops, well, it's a draw. So, okay, this was if we went with the king e5, which would be a mistake. But the logical continuation, of course, it's the main line. We check the king, so now it's black to play. The king goes, of course, to f6. And now it's another moment. Let's go for another minute. Pause if you need more. What is the correct continuation for white to keep going for a win? And let's see what's going on. Well, the first thing we need to see is we can't accept the knight now. Why? Because black is going to be too fast. It attacks our bishop, let's say the bishop retreats, and then now enter in contact with the pawn. Of course, we have two pieces protecting the pawn, so we are not worried to lose the pawn directly. But of course, black just plays f5, forcing us to take, and when it takes back, there is not enough material to go for a win. Two bishops against a bishop and a pawn doesn't work anymore. So, not a good idea. We can't go for the knight directly. But let's see what white has in mind. A very, very clever idea that it's going to reveal a bit later. We first go with bishop e3. So we are now avoiding the king to go directly to g5. It's black to play. Moving the knight is not a good option, of course, just helps white. So if the king moves away, we just grab the knight. The king is now too far away to come and help destroying the last resource from white. It goes with bishop g6. And as stranger as you may think over here, the clever continuation from white is now to accept the knight, which is a bit strange, but you are going to understand the idea a bit more ahead. If you haven't, of course, because probably you are already seeing what's going on. The king now attacks our bishop, the bishop goes to d7, and finally it's black to play. And of course, going for the pawn doesn't work anymore because you can simply check the king, and even if the king goes to e3, now it's white to play and can simply go bishop f5. So there are no more ways for black to go and grab our pawn, because if it exchanges the bishops, we are going to keep the pawn. So it is our first main priority at the moment. And so without these options, black goes with the direct f5. And suddenly we see, okay, can we avoid losing our last pawn? Doesn't look like. So another minute for you and try to see what is now the plan for white. Okay, and here it's not easy because we see, okay, if we grab the pawn, this is just going to be a draw because the bishop takes, and even if I take the bishop or don't take the bishop, this is a draw because I don't have, again, enough material. So you need to discover the new idea from white, and the new idea is I grab the other pawn with my king, so king e5, and you are going to understand why this simple movement from the bishop to g6 changes completely the outcome of the plan for white. What does black does over here? Okay, it eliminates our last pawn, of course, takes the pawn, but now it's white to play, so we check the king. Notice that suddenly we start to notice, okay, the king doesn't has many options at the moment, so needs to just go to the sideline of the board. So let's say we have two options, but one of them is very simple to see. So if we go to h4, then we simply can approach our king attacking the bishop. Of course, now black suddenly also sees, okay, the bishop also has very few options. So suddenly we win one tempo over here thanks to the bishop has moved to g6. So the bishop moves, but if it goes to h5, well, can you see the move? Well, it is a checkmate in one, so cool. And if it goes to the other side, well, we simply attack it again with our king, and suddenly we see, okay, this bishop is dead. We are going to win the bishop, and then we are going to win against the king with the pair of bishops, of course. So this is very interesting, but this was if the king goes to h4. So let's see the other one. Let's see, okay, the king now goes to h5. What is the advantage? Is the king stays protecting the bishop g6, but now we still go there. Because it's black to move, of course, we can't move the king, because otherwise we just grab the bishop, of course, but the bishop still has one square, it goes to h5, and now so you can finish this one in style. Another minute for you and find how white finished this one until the end. And okay, what is the small detail over here is if we go directly for the bishop, well, the bishop just comes back, so I'm forced to come back, and the bishop just retreats and it stays at the same position. So we need to find king f7 exclamation mark. And notice now that black is in zugzag, because if it moves the bishop, that is our main intention, we just move the king to g7. And of course, if it moves the king, the only option is to go to h4. We already saw this. We just approach the bishop and the bishop stays without squares and it's lost. So the bishop needs to come back to g6, checking our king. Now the king moves, and again, the bishop can't move, no options. And if the king moves, of course, we just grab the bishop and we go from here to the win of the endgame study. Okay, this was fun. Hope you also have enjoyed it. And as always, I catch you up with future videos. Bye bye and keep checking.